Coby White puts on a show in a playing game, scoring his career high, even though it's not going to be track. We're going to talk about the game last night against the Atlanta Hawks that pushed the Chicago Bulls into a matchup with the Miami Heat going down tomorrow. We're going to preview that game just a little bit and talk about the impact of that game. And lastly, we're going to take a look at a Bleacher Report trade proposal for Zach LaVine that I actually don't think is all that bad. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. And Coby White, man. Coby White putting on an absolute show against the Miami Heat, scoring what would be his career high, even though the stats aren't tracked as part of either playoff or regular season stats. But it is what it is when it comes down to that, man. Coby White scoring 42 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. And Coby White did something in this game that I've really been calling for and wanting to see Coby White do a little bit more, getting to the free throw line. Getting to the free throw line 6 times in the first half, 10 times overall in this game, going 9 of 10 from the free throw line. On top of that, that's just easy points that are able to be gotten by Coby White. And, you know, when you look at his speed and his ability to get crafty, to get to the rim, and, you know, sometimes a lot of people have rightfully so called out and said, well, Coby always passes out when he gets to the rim. I like to see him either try to finish it or get to the free throw line. He did that today, and he did it early. Like I said, that was something early on, and then the shot started coming to him. And for a player like Coby White who can be streaky over the course of his NBA career, it's nice to see him get to the free throw line because that is something that can get you in rhythm, right? They always say, scorers, don't let them see the ball go in the hoop, whether that's in the free throw line or with shooting the ball, because that's what can help them get them in rhythm. Now, it's one game. I don't want to make it seem like Coby White's all of a sudden going to be this savant at getting to the free throw line, but I hope that this is something that's a wake-up call to him as far as realizing what he can do in that type of situation. Now, make no mistake about it. We were playing off against one of the worst defenses in the NBA. Like, the Atlanta Hawks are a bad defensive team. The effort was bad there from the start of the game, and me and Pat have a little bit of a conspiracy theory over on Locked On Bulls because it really seems like this team may be over Trae Young. And by that, I mean the players on this team. They didn't try to cover up Trae Young at all defensively in this game. You know, help didn't really come for him. Trae Young got absolutely smoked and cooked in this game that he did, but Coby White had a great game, and I love to see this type of performance from Coby and on one of the biggest stages of his career so far. We'll see what he gets into if the Bulls make it into the playoffs. But, you know, Coby actually talked about his game afterwards where he said this.
We just wanted to play with pace, get downhill. Well, Ayo do that every game, so that's not really the out the norm for him. But we just wanted to get downhill, and we know that once we attack the paint, get the defense to collapse, and we either got to finish or spray out and just make the right read. So everybody played a total role in it.
Would you consider this your career high, even though playing stats don't count?
I mean, it was a dope feeling. It was a dope moment for that to happen. I'm thankful for it. Like I said, I'm thankful for the fans. It felt like a playoff vibe. Like the place was rocking tonight, and I'm definitely counting that as my career high. So I mean, it's on the stat sheet right here. So,
and this again, great impact from Coby White. I love to see the way that Coby performed in this game and his mindset about it, and you know him saying like attacking. That's one thing that you absolutely want to see this Bulls team do consistently is attack the other teams. And when you look at what the Bulls were able to do as far as points in the paint in this game, that's really where the separation kind of got created a little bit for the Bulls is the discrepancy in points in the paint. In this game, 72 points in the paint to only 44 for the Atlanta Hawks. The Bulls were attacking throughout that game. Now, they didn't get a whole lot of foul calls, but listen, they finished with over 56% shooting from the field and 42% from three-point range because they had collapsed the defense. They played extremely well in that point in time, and you just got to give it up to them and how they're able to play, man. I love the way that they play in this game, the impact that was made. And when you look at it, Coby White and Andre Drummond both returned in this game after some doubt, right? It was kind of more doubt around Drum. I had personally said I would not be surprised if Andre Drummond does not return at all in the postseason for the Bulls. Well, he does. He plays 11 minutes and 15 seconds. He scores 4 points, gets 4 rebounds as well, 1 steal also. But one of the biggest things that he did in this game, unfortunately, is stepping on the foot of Alex Caruso, which put Alex out of the game and has now put some of his availability for Friday's game against Miami in question. But we'll talk about that here in a second. But then also we got to talk about the performance of Ayo Dosunmu, man. Ayo is just he's amazing, man. And, Coby talking about Ayo's impact in that earlier clip, like, especially on the fast break, right? Him saying that that's something that Ayo always does is attack in the fast break. And, I talked about over the last couple of episodes that, when Ayo Dosunmu is not in the game, the Bulls' fast break looks completely different. Not only can he start the fast break, but he can finish on the fast break, and he can pass well on the fast break as well. 19 points scored by Ayo Dosunmu, 8 of 12 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point range. Gotta love that. 3 assists in this, 2 blocks as well from Ayo Dosunmu. This was a game where Ayo's impact, as far as changing the energy and the mindset and things like that, was evident. And when you have your 2 young players in Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu stepping up the way that they did in one of the biggest stages for their career, because again, while they've been in playing games before, while they've been in even playoff games before, they have not had the workload that is expected of them now in this season. So while Coby White had a great and amazing, he's a special player, we also got to look at the way that Ayo Dosunmu impacts the game, even when he's not scoring a lot. Even though 19 points is nothing to shake your head at, he makes a huge impact as well. Got to also throw some love to Nikola Vucevic. 24 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists in this game, going 11 of 21 from the field, 1 of 6 from three-point range. We got to keep his ass in the paint, but outside of that, Vooch, the second leading scorer in this game for the Bulls, had a really big impact as well for this team. And then DeMar DeRozan, 10 of 19, didn't overdo it. 9 assists as well, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block, 22 points. He really allowed the game to come to him, and that's the amazing part of the way that DeMar DeRozan performed in this game as well. He didn't take over a bunch of quarters. He let the young guys cook, and that's, you got to give credit for him when it's due. And I don't want to overlook the impact of Javonte Green again. 23 minutes played, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. Once again, Javonte Green showing how he helps that Chicago Bulls team so much as well. Great win from the Bulls, man. I love to see the impact that they had in this team. Dalen Terry even giving the Bulls 15 quality minutes in this game, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks in this game, only 4 points scored, but you got to really kind of watch the game to understand how Dalen Terry really stepped up hugely for the Chicago Bulls. And it's like the young guards of the young wave of the Chicago Bulls, right? In Dalen Terry, Ayo Dosunmu, Coby White really stepped up in a big way for the Chicago Bulls, making some big and major plays where we needed it to. Surprisingly, Torrey Craig was kind of completely out of the rotation. Only 7 minutes for Torrey Craig in this game. 2 minutes from Javon Carter, which in Javon Carter's time, the Bulls got outscored by 11 points with Javon Carter in the game. Javon, don't sit your ass down, my boy. It's and I know we don't have a lot of depth there. We know that Julian Phillips is not cleared yet to play. Patrick Williams is out. Erno Lop is now out. Adama Sanogo can't play. Henry Jarrell can't play. So our rotations are going to be extremely short rotations anyway. But those 2 minutes from Javon Carter just made me look at him and say, that was the worst I think I've ever been on a player in the history of me doing this show. It's honestly disgusting, the performance that Javon Carter consistently gives. It's ugly. It's ugly, man. But, over all things said, Billy Donovan coaches a pretty solid game as well. Got to give him his credit. This Bulls team came in prepared for what the Atlanta Hawks were going to do. Defended the three-point line well. Forced Trae Young to kind of inefficient night and a difficult night for him. DeJounte Murray killed us at times. Bogdanovich had 21 points as well. Clint Capella had 22 points. But throughout all of that, the Bulls performed the way that we need and want to see this Bulls team play. And now they move on to Friday's game against the Miami Heat. And this is a game where Alex Caruso may not play, but Alex Caruso, to his credit, has already said that he is expecting to play in this game. So shout out there. And with that, also on top of that, Jimmy Butler's availability is in question as well, as he is rumored to have some type of MCL injury, which, if that is true, and they're waiting on the imagery to come back on that one, there's a high probability Jimmy Butler is not going to play in this game for the Miami Heat, which does give the Bulls a little bit of an edge, but it's not something that they can overlook. And a lot of the players also agree with that. Billy Donovan actually talked about it after the game, where he said this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the run they went on, was, incredible last year after our game throughout the playoffs. So, a team that's really battle tested, been in all sorts of moments. It'd be a great challenge on the road. We all have an enormous amount of respect for them, and we know how good they are. Again, you'll have to play well, there, and they get out, they do a lot of things really, really well, and got a lot of respect for Spo and their team, and like I said, at this point in time where it's not a series, it's a one-game series, so to speak. There's a lot of things you have to do well. I think that you try to prepare as much as you can in a 36-hour window. But the reality is there's going to be loose balls, there's going to be hustle plays, there's going to be physicality plays. There's both teams shoot 50%. You're probably talking about 50 missed shots by both teams. That's a lot of loose balls. And they obviously are really good at those things, and will be really tested to do a lot of those things at a really, really high level. And then obviously guarding them with the 3-point shooting with Hero and Robinson, and the way those guys can move and cut and pass. And then about facilitating all that stuff. So there's a lot in terms of to get prepared for playing against them.
And I agree with everything that's said there. The Miami Heat are a team that they have the culture, they have all these things. You cannot overlook what the Miami Heat bring. And, regardless of who's out there, they still have one of the best coaches in the league. They're still a team that's been battle tested. They're still a team that has gone through things, and they've had players step up before. And like I said on yesterday's live stream, the Bulls have been beaten by teams that have had, basically, when you look at it, skeleton crews as far as, their rosters, how many injuries they've had. So this is a Miami Heat team that you cannot overlook by any stretch of the imagination. And Ayo Dosunmu echoed those sentiments as well. Ayo saying this.
Jimmy been out for Miami. They have a culture. So, whoever steps up in this spot, I know they're not going to bring everything that he does, because he's a, all-star. He's a great player in this league. But, Miami is one of those teams when you play them, you know what to expect. They play hard. They play physical. They don't quit. They always, keep coming and keep bringing energy. So we really can't game plan for them without him. We know that it's Miami Heat. They have a culture.
Yeah, he's one of the great competitors that this league, has. He turns this time of the year into his time. So if he can't go, that'd be a big loss, significant loss for them, just because he's kind of the head of the snake, the heartbeat for them. But they still got plenty of talented guys, capable guys that can play. So obviously, whether he's in or out, it'll change a little bit for us what we'll do, but still respect the Miami Heat and what they bring.
And the culture of the Miami Heat culture is a real thing. And I think that, sometimes for teams that don't have culture, like the Bulls are still trying to establish their culture, you can kind of forget or overlook just the importance of how that culture is. They're well coached, they fight hard, they still have players that can absolutely fill it up and have against the Chicago Bulls. If Jimmy Butler is not in this game, right? Well, we know Jimmy Butler, their leading scorer, tied for that with Tyler Hero in the regular season, as a matter of fact. But outside of that, he's also one of their more versatile defenders. But even without Jimmy Butler on that team, they still have Tyler Hero that can absolutely fill it up. Didn't shoot the ball effectively last night against the Philadelphia 76ers, but with the Bulls' history of not guarding the three-point line well, you can't overlook the impact that Tyler Hero could have against the Chicago Bulls. Bam Adebayo. Bam's another player that, again, you'd be crazy as hell to overlook Bam. And especially the matchup against Nikola Vucevic, right? And we'll see how much Drum can go in that next game as well. But Bam is going to be a big player as well for that team. And then Haize Jr. When you look at Haize, in his rookie year, which is his first year, against the Chicago Bulls, he averages 16.3 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 3 assists in 4 games against the Chicago Bulls. Yes, in his very first game against the Bulls, he only scored 6 points. But when you look at the following 3 games, in a game on November 20th, 19 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, shooting 61% from the field and 75% from three-point range. The next game against the Chicago Bulls, 22 points, shooting 42% from the field, only 25%, but also chipping in 4 rebounds, 4 assists in that game as well. Then the last game against the Chicago Bulls in the regular season, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals in that game. Haize can fill it up when it comes to the Chicago Bulls, and especially with the Bulls lacking the size that they have, I would not be surprised if Eric Spoelstra tries to exploit that a little bit by using Haize a lot and getting him to step up. And while Duncan Robinson didn't play for the Miami Heat against the Sixers either, that's still another player that has absolutely cooked the Bulls at times over the course of his NBA career. So, and Kevin Love has done it before too. So you can't overlook things while they already going to be missing Terry Rozier. While Jimmy Butler is questionable if he's going to play, the Bulls have to be locked in this game against the Miami Heat. This is an important game, right? And while I've still maintained as of right now, my mindset hasn't changed. It doesn't matter, right? Nothing changes what needs to happen this offseason. But I will say this, getting to see our young players step up in the manner in which they did. And the Bulls still need to be locked in for this game, right? But seeing the young players step up the way that they have in that game, it adds a lot of promise for the future, right? It'd be different if it was DeMar and Vooch the ones that were leading the way, right? But having Coby White, having Ayo be such a big part of those games, that's the important part when you talk about getting postseason experience for your young guys. That's what you want when you're talking about that. And so the Bulls got that yesterday, and we got to continue it. And so against the Miami Heat, seeing how Billy Donovan has this team prepared, especially against a strategist in Eric Spoelstra, who is going to get the most out of anybody on his roster. And in an elimination game, betting against Eric Spoelstra as a coach, regardless of who's on his roster, is sometimes a fool's errand. And so, you don't want to overlook it at all. The Bulls are not in a position to overlook anybody for the remainder of the season. This Bulls team has to be locked in. And defensively, it's going to be a lot harder against the Miami Heat team, even if they are missing Jimmy Butler. And defensively, the Miami Heat are not going to back down defensively. It's going to get tough. It's going to get physical. It's going to be a matchup where the Bulls' mental resolve is going to be tested a lot in this game, I think, as well. And, hopefully the Bulls can come out on the other side of that, showing what they showed in this game, the edge, the leadership as well. That's something that I didn't talk about in the first segment. The leadership from Coby White has to be one of, outside of the scoring, the most promising things to see from this young man is the way that he is growing as a leader for the Chicago Bulls team. That is something that's just, we have lacked a vocal leader on the court for so long. And you need that for a team. That's what helps build identity. Coby and Ayo still have to show and prove that they're players that you can build around, or they're just players you can build with. Either way, it's a good position to be in. But I think ultimately when it comes down to it, seeing the leadership of Coby White and the fact that players are listening to him. It's not like one of those loud guys who are just talking and everybody's kind of filtering out. People are listening to Coby because he's leading by example. And let's hope that continues. But one of the biggest questions this offseason for the Chicago Bulls is, what are the Bulls going to do this offseason to maybe break up this roster? Now, while safe money is on the Bulls running it all back, right? I think most Bulls fans that follow this team in and out understand that is the safe money to have in this point to place your bets on. But, the Bulls are in a position to where they can't bring everybody back just by the nature of how close they are to that luxury tax. So then next up to that, you got to look and say, what's one of the things that's going to be moved, right? And Casey Johnson, to his credit, has said that the Bulls still plan on exploring Zach LaVine trades this offseason. Now, will they find deals that they want, that they like? That's a story for another day. We can only know that once we start hearing some of the maneuvers around there. But Bleacher Report presented a trade idea, and they did this for a lot of teams as far as a trade ideas to kind of make rosters make more sense. And in this, they suggested that the Chicago Bulls could look to trade Zach LaVine to the Orlando Magic for a deal involving Markelle Fultz in a sign-and trade, Mo Wagner, and a 2024 second-round pick. Now, here's why would the Orlando Magic be interested in Zach LaVine? Well, the reasoning that they gave, at least in this article, is that with the Orlando Magic ranking third in defense this season, that they could be in a position to be willing to take a player on that doesn't necessarily have the best reputation defensively, right? So that's something to look at. Zach LaVine could come in and provide some extra scoring for that team. When you look at Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner on that team, having Wendell Carter already on that team as well, which, again, you guys know how I feel about Wendell Carter. And while the Magic are on pace to have the fourth youngest roster, considering that they could give up some things that don't necessarily affect their long-term goal, but you're still adding a youngest player that's still in their prime, that you can absorb that money on Zach LaVine's contract, considering you have Paolo, Wagner, Jalen Suggs. They still got time left on their rookie deals to where they don't have to worry about those increases right away. Could this be a destination for Zach LaVine? Here's my thought process on it. I think that this is the type of deal that you can expect to get back for Zach. I just do. I think Mo Wagner will come in and instantly be a pickup, right? As far as the backup center position, which you could lose Andre Drummond this season, I think you still need to draft a mobile big as well, but then you can bring that guy on a little bit more. Markelle Fultz is neither here nor there with me. The Bulls would have to be interested because it would have to be a sign and trade. He is a free agent at the end of the season. Yeah, he's better than Javon Carter, right? That's coming off the bench. And if you do this trade, that means that Ayo and Coby are now your starting backcourt. So then you do have another spot coming off the bench for another member of the backcourt, even though we know the Bulls need some more size. That's where the Mo Wagner piece comes in at. This is one of the more better thought out trade proposals that I've seen from Bleacher Report in a while. Still not perfect. I still don't think that this is something that Bulls fans are going to look at and say, oh, this is it. We got the trade. This is it. But this is, I think, the type of deal that you can look for Zach LaVine. I think people are starting to come to that realization. The bigger question is this a deal that AK would take, or would he be willing, especially with how this team finishes this season, if they get into the playoffs, how they play in the playoffs, would they be kind of more apt to bringing Zach LaVine back to see how he fits in with this team, and then maybe look to kick a potential Zach LaVine trade down to the trade deadline as they get time to kind of look and review how things are going to go. That's just my thought process on it. As you guys know, once the season finishes for the Bulls, that's when we kick into off-season mode. We'll kind of do more of these speculation pieces. We'll kind of look at more free agents and start doing our draft prospects or what's going to come first down the pipeline here. But I think that if the Bulls truly do go into this offseason and one of their first focuses outside the draft is let's find a trade destination for Zach LaVine, I think this is the type of framework on a deal that you're going to see for Zach. But let me know what you guys think on that. Do you think Bleacher Report is completely out of the way on it? Do you think they're undervaluing Zach LaVine? Or do you think with the kind of questions about Zach LaVine's impact on winning the health that this is kind of what you can expect? And if this is one of the better deals that the Bulls could get, and hypothetically for Zach, would you rather them hold on to Zach LaVine than move him? Let me know all that down below. If you're on the YouTube side, if you're on the podcast side, I'll tell you guys how to get your thoughts in here in just a second. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.